this is wherever, like Area 53. He's like, how did you get this number? This is secured. And I'm like, the lengths that people will go through to avoid taking my call is absurd. like Area 53, this is the government, a private sector of aliens.
Hey everybody, my name is Jen Sula, Delivery Lead Consultant here at Qualigence International. Here at Recruiter Fuel, we want to do what we can to help all of you to up your recruiting game, especially in this market right now. So with me today, explaining how to best snag that phone screen, is Mary Mullins, a delivery consultant here at Qualigence that talks to candidates day in and day out, so who better to hear it from first? So Mary, glad to have you today.
Excited to be here.
Thanks for sharing more of your expertise of how you nab those phone screens. So starting out, as you know, right now, especially in this tough market, it has been very hard to be able to grab the attention of candidates. So tell me, how do you do this? Why do you think that is? What's some of your advice?
Definitely a really tough market right now. Obviously, COVID came and turned the world upside down. With that, a lot of companies unfortunately had to let go of employees, lay off employees, and now that things are kind of coming back to normal, opening back up, a lot of positions are open and we can't fill them. It's a really competitive market. A lot of the companies out there right now are trying to compete with one another. And with that, it really is an applicant's market because you can be a little bit more selective. You can take your time. You don't necessarily need to take that first offer that you're receiving anymore. And a lot of candidates out there are looking for the next best thing and they want the absolute best for themselves. So they're not just willing to take any position.
Which I think is huge, the options, because if you want to share with our viewers, what sectors do you focus on primarily?
Primarily, I work in our IT and technology sectors, as well as some sales and high volume positions, which historically are difficult to fill as it is. So it's definitely been a really tough market out there and really helping to find the best possible matches for who's actually looking and open to a conversation.
Absolutely, because I was going to say, I know you have a lot of phone conversations on a weekly basis. So if you could share, because I think it's all about failing forward, figuring out, especially for those of you tuning in, like what's working, what's not. So if you could share a time where you just completely kind of just had a flub up, where you reached out to a candidate and you wish that that conversation would have went a little different, versus a time where you reached out and you saw success in that.
For me, it's when I call a candidate and I assume that I'm going to get a voicemail and that candidate actually answers the phone. With that, it's being unprepared for somebody to actually answer and say, hey, I can talk now, not having that information at hand, not having the details I need pulled up, and not having that confidence to just jump on that call right away and fumbling. That is one of the biggest mistakes I think we can make, is just not being prepared for any situation. So that's definitely a big fail that I've had in making calls or sending out emails, not having the right details included in the body of that message.
I feel like that's huge, like really knowing the position that you're recruiting on, making sure that that candidate can have their questions answered to the best of your ability, being able to go back to the client if there's still those question marks or those gaps. So within IT and tech, especially right now, I know those are two spaces that are being highly talked about with the Great Resignation wave. So what have you found most challenging about those in particular?
It's really getting the responses. It's being able to get into contact with those individuals in those industries, in those areas. They are very busy throughout the entire day. So they don't have the normal hours that generally a lot of people in business will have. So it's harder to catch them at a lunchtime, maybe after hours, earlier in the morning, because for them, their positions never really stop. So they're constantly working. They may not be paying attention to their phone. They may not be paying attention to their email. They may see it, forget about it. And with that, it really creates a challenge in being able to at least get a reply from these people. On top of that, as I stated, they really are looking for the best possible opportunity. So if they're not getting that, they'll move on and they won't even give you the time of day.
Absolutely, especially in more, I think, that like niche fields of things in IT and tech. And if you have a limited candidate pool, I feel like, especially right now, is highly competitive.
Yes.
And so I feel like if you had to give our viewers listening like the top 3 tips that you live by kind of when you're about to hop on the phone, that is your guide, kind of your like sense to help out with getting candidates on the phone for initial phone screen, what would kind of be your top 3 best practices?
First of all, be prepared for any situation. You can get somebody on the phone on the fly. You can get somebody who may be not so happy that you've called them in the middle of the workday. Be prepared for any situation and be confident, because they can pick up on that. If you're not confident in your delivery and they don't feel that you know what you're talking about, they aren't going to take you seriously as a recruiter. Second is really just being able to be consistent with your reach out. If you're not consistent, it gives them a chance to forget about you. If I sent them an email 2 weeks ago and I wait until today to send another email or make another phone call to them, they've already forgotten about that first email, and I'll have to start the entire getting to know you or reach out process all over again. So that definitely is a big one, is being consistent. And with that, again, just knowing your market, knowing your audience. So depending on who you're speaking with, depending on who you're recruiting for, you have to know your market and the best possible way to reach out to grab those individuals' attention, and how to speak with them, how to interact with them, and how to build that relationship, because that is the key, is all about rapport and building the relationship with them.
Absolutely. I think especially when they're hearing from so many recruiters in all different types of directions, from messages, voicemails, text messages, being able to set yourself apart, I feel like is huge. And so I appreciate you sharing with our viewers today those tips to snag that phone screen. If you are looking for more advice, more education, we have our recruitmentedu.com. There is a class called Candidate Skepticism in Building Trust. So feel free to dive into that segment to further help you to be able to nab those phone screens. And leave a comment below. Let us know your thoughts on this. How do you go about trying to snag a phone screen? We'd love to hear that as well. And if you are interested in appearing on Recruiter Fuel, reach out to David Simmons at dsimmons@qualligence.com, and he will be able to reach back out to you and see if it's a good fit on both ends. So happy recruiting, everyone.